A racist school board president laughs at a black mother's complaint about the failing school her son attends. He sneers, he condescends, he dismisses her with the wave of a hand, a king swatting away a fly in his opulent throne room. But that president, a man drowning in his own arrogance, just made the biggest mistake of his career. He just tried to humiliate the new state secretary of education. This is the story of how one man's prejudice led to his complete and total destruction. The boardroom is a cathedral built to worship power. Mahogany walls gleam under recessed lighting, so polished they reflect the distorted faces of the men who run this county's education system. A long, boat-shaped table, a vessel of dark wood, dominates the space. At its head sits Arthur Vance, the president of the Northwood County School Board. He is a man carved from granite and prejudice. His suit is tailored, a shield of expensive gray wool. His silver hair is perfectly coiffed, a helmet of authority. His face is a mask of patrician boredom, but his eyes, small and hard like chips of flint, miss nothing. They are perpetually scanning for weakness, for dissent, for any challenge to his dominion. He wields his gavel not as a tool of order, but as a scepter. Tap. 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 The sound is a punctuation mark on his absolute control. Tonight is the monthly public comment session, a charade of civic engagement that Arthur Vance despises. He sees it as a necessary evil, a brief, tedious performance where the common folk are allowed to air their petty grievances before the real business of power brokering can continue behind closed doors. He surveys the handful of parents scattered in the gallery seats. They are predictable. The angry father demanding more funding for the football team. The concerned mother worried about the gluten-free options in the cafeteria. The usual parade of minor anxieties from the affluent side of the county. Then his eyes land on her. She sits alone in the third row. A black woman, perhaps in her late 30s. She wears a simple, clean dress, the kind of thing one might wear to a church service or a parent-teacher conference. It is respectable, but in this room of power suits and designer handbags, it marks her as an outsider. Her hair is pulled back neatly, and she clutches a worn manila folder to her chest like a shield. She is not looking at him. Her gaze is fixed forward, her posture straight, radiating a quiet intensity that Arthur finds vaguely irritating. She is a disruption to the room's carefully curated atmosphere of entitled comfort. He sees her, but he doesn't see a person. He sees a type. A problem. Another disgruntled parent from the other side of the county line, the side with failing schools and rising crime rates that he and the board so skillfully ignore during budget allocations. He sighs, a theatrical exhalation of manufactured patience. Next, he drones into the microphone, the word echoing slightly in the cavernous room. The woman stands. She walks to the podium with a steady, unhurried gait. She places her folder down, arranging it carefully before adjusting the microphone. "Good evening, Mr. Vance, members of the board," she begins. Her voice is soft, but clear. It carries no trace of the anger or hysteria he expects. It is measured. Precise. Arthur leans back, steepling his fingers. He prepares his face, arranging his features into a mask of placid condescension. He lets a small, patronizing smile touch his lips. Let her speak. Let her have her 3 minutes of futility. "My name is Anaya Williams. My son, Leo, is a 4th grader at Oak Valley Elementary." Oak Valley. The name confirms all of Arthur's prejudices. It is the most underfunded, overcrowded, and neglected school in the entire district. A holding pen. A place where aspirations go to die. He has made sure of it. Anaya opens her folder. "I am here tonight to speak about the systemic inequities facing the students at Oak Valley. The classroom sizes are unmanageable, with some classes having as many as 38 students to one teacher." She pauses, letting the number hang in the air. Arthur Vance does not flinch. He simply maintains his serene smile. "The textbooks," she continues, her voice steady, "are over 15 years old. My son's history book ends with the first President Bush. The computers in the library, the few that are operational, are running on software from a decade ago. The roof in the gymnasium has been leaking for 3 years, and a portion of the basketball court is permanently cordoned off with yellow tape because of water damage." She speaks in facts, not emotions. A litany of neglect. Arthur lets the silence stretch for a moment after she finishes. He enjoys the tension. He wants her to feel the weight of the room's indifference. He leans into his microphone. "Thank you, Miss Williams, is it?" He deliberately mispronounces her name, a small, cruel assertion of power. "We appreciate you bringing your observations to our attention." He infuses the word observations with a dismissive quality, as if she were describing cloud shapes rather than the systematic decay of a public institution. However, he continues, his voice booming with false sincerity, "You must understand that the board operates within complex budgetary realities. We are dealing with macro-level resource allocation, not anecdotal reports of leaky roofs." He waves a hand, a gesture of magnanimous dismissal. The other board members, a collection of his hand-picked sycophants, chuckle softly. They are a chorus of nodding heads and vacant smiles. All except one. Maria Rodriguez, the newest and youngest member of the board, shifts uncomfortably in her seat. She is a former teacher, earnest and idealistic, and she has not yet learned that her role here is purely decorative. She opens her mouth to speak, but a single, ice-cold glare from Arthur Vance freezes the words in her throat. Anaya Williams does not look defeated. She does not look angry. She simply looks at him, her gaze unwavering. "Mr. Vance, these are not anecdotes. I have photographs. I have maintenance requests filed by the principal, Mr. Harris, that have gone unanswered for years. I have testimonials from 20 other parents who couldn't be here tonight." She slides a stack of papers from her folder across the podium. "This is evidence." Arthur looks at the stack of papers as if it were a piece of garbage someone had left on his pristine table. He does not touch it. "Ma'am," he says, his voice losing its thin veneer of politeness and taking on a hard, metallic edge. "We have procedures. We have protocols. You can't just walk in here with a folder full of complaints and expect to upend a multi-million-dollar budget." He is talking down to her now, treating her like a child throwing a tantrum. "This isn't about the budget," Anaya says, her voice still quiet but now laced with a steely resolve. "This is about fairness. The schools on the north side of the county have state-of-the-art facilities. They have digital smartboards and new athletic fields. They have a student-to-teacher ratio of 20-1. My son's school doesn't even have enough soap in the bathrooms. The comparison is stark. It is undeniable. And for that reason, it infuriates Arthur Vance. He hates being confronted with a truth he has spent years carefully burying. He decides to end this. "Your 3 minutes are up, Miss Williams," he says, his voice dripping with finality. He picks up his gavel. "I'm not finished," she says. The room goes silent. No one tells Arthur Vance they are not finished. He lowers the gavel slowly. A dangerous smile plays on his lips. "Oh, I think you are." He leans forward, a predator closing in. "Let me offer you some friendly advice. If you are so profoundly unhappy with the public education that we, the taxpayers, so generously provide, perhaps you should consider other options. Homeschooling is very popular these days, I hear. Or, if that's too much trouble, you could always move. Find a district that is more aligned with your expectations." The insult is layered. It is about class. It is about race. It is a thinly veiled, "go back to where you came from." It is designed to humiliate, to put her back in her place, to remind her that she is a guest in his world, a supplicant at his court. The other board members snicker. They are enjoying the show. The public humiliation of this upstart woman is a blood sport for them. But Anaya Williams does not back down. Her spine seems to turn to steel. "My son's name is Leo," she says, her voice ringing with a new and unfamiliar power. "He loves to read. He loves science. He told me last week that he doesn't want to go to school anymore. He said, 'Mommy, what's the point? The teachers are too tired and nothing ever works.' A 9-year-old boy's hope is being extinguished by your neglect." She has made it personal. She has invoked the name of her child. For Arthur Vance, this is the final transgression. How dare she bring her sentimental, domestic problems into his cathedral of power? He lets his condescending mask fall away completely. What remains is pure, undiluted contempt. He smirks, a cruel, ugly twisting of his lips. "Ma'am," he says, his voice a low, venomous drawl. "With all due respect to young Leo and his feelings, perhaps the problem isn't the school. He pauses for dramatic effect, letting his gaze sweep over her simple dress, her worn folder, her very existence. Perhaps the problem is the environment at home. Some children, you see, just aren't cut out for academic excellence. No matter how many new books you throw at them. It is a blow aimed directly at her heart. An attack on her as a mother, on her son's potential, on her entire life. It is the most vicious thing he can say, a final, definitive statement that she and her kind are the problem, not his corrupt system. He has crossed a line. A moral event horizon from which there is no return. The room is thick with a shocked silence. Even his cronies on the board look down, a flicker of shame passing through them before being extinguished by their practiced cowardice. Maria Rodriguez looks physically ill. Arthur Vance savors the moment. He has won. He has crushed her. He raises his gavel to deliver the final, symbolic blow. This is his kingdom. He is the king. But then, something unexpected happens. A phone chimes. It's not a normal ringtone. It's a series of crisp, official-sounding beeps, the kind you hear in movies just before something important is about to happen. The sound comes from the podium. From a simple, unobtrusive black smartphone Anaya had placed there when she arrived. Arthur Vance freezes, his gavel held aloft. The interruption is an affront. "Ma'am, I will have to ask you to take that outside," he barks, his anger flaring. This is a formal proceeding. Anaya Williams does not look flustered. She does not apologize. She simply looks down at the phone, then back up at him. A strange, unreadable expression is on her face. It is not fear. It is not anger. It is something else entirely. It looks like pity. She picks up the phone. She answers it. "Yes, Governor," she says, her voice calm and professional. The two words detonate in the silent room. Governor. Arthur Vance's mind struggles to process the information. It must be a trick. A bluff. "Yes, he's here," Anaya continues, her eyes locked on Arthur's. "The entire board is present. Yes, I believe I have everything I need. Thank you." She ends the call. She places the phone back on the podium, its dark screen reflecting the stunned faces of the board members. The air in the room has changed. The gravitational center has shifted. All the power, all the authority that once radiated from Arthur Vance at the head of the table, now seems to be coalescing around the woman at the podium. She looks at Arthur Vance. When she speaks again, her voice is different. The soft, pleading tones of the concerned mother are gone. In their place is a voice of pure, unassailable authority. A voice accustomed to being obeyed. "Mr. Vance," she says, the words as clean and sharp as shattered glass. "My name is Anaya Williams. And as of 9 o'clock this morning, by executive appointment of Governor David Thompson, I am the State Secretary of Education." Silence. A profound, bottomless silence that swallows every other sound in the room. The hum of the air conditioning, the rustle of papers, the frantic beating of Arthur Vance's own heart. His smirk, the weapon he has wielded his entire life, melts from his face like wax. The blood drains from his cheeks, leaving behind a pasty, gray pallor. His jaw hangs slack. He looks at her, truly looks at her for the first time, and sees not a problem to be dismissed, but a judge. An executioner. This board, Secretary Williams continues, her voice resonating with the full weight of the state government, and its financial records, are now under formal investigation by my office. Effective immediately. The world tilts on its axis. The predator has become the prey. The king is a prisoner in his own collapsing castle. Maria Rodriguez gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. But behind it, a slow, brilliant smile of pure, unadulterated joy begins to spread across her face. The other board members look at each other, their faces masks of dawning horror. Their loyalty to Arthur, always a transaction, evaporates in an instant. They look at him now as an anchor, a weight that will drag them all down into the abyss. Anaya, Secretary Williams, reaches for her worn manila folder. The object Arthur had viewed with such contempt. She opens it, and it is no longer the pathetic collection of a desperate parent. It is a dossier. A weapon. "You spoke of complex budgetary realities, Mr. Vance," she says, her voice cold and precise. "Let's simplify them, shall we? She pulls out the first document. It's a spreadsheet, dense with numbers and codes. She doesn't need to look at it. She has memorized every line. For the last 5 years, this board has consistently voted to approve emergency maintenance allocations for schools in the affluent Northwood Hills district. These allocations, totaling over $12 million, were funneled through a single-source contractor, Vanguard Educational Solutions. Arthur Vance flinches at the name. Vanguard. His company. A shell corporation registered in his wife's maiden name. My preliminary audit, she says, and the word preliminary is a chilling promise of more to come, shows that Vanguard Educational Solutions has no employees, no equipment, and no physical address. It is a mailbox in a strip mall. The money went in, was funneled through 2 other holding companies, and a significant portion of it ended up in offshore accounts. Accounts, Mr. Vance, that are linked directly to you and 3 other members of this board. She looks up from the folder, her eyes sweeping across the table. She pauses on Mr. Henderson, a portly man who is now sweating through his expensive shirt. Mr. Henderson, she says, her tone conversational but deadly. Your brother-in-law's construction company, Apex Builders, was awarded a no-bid contract last year for a $2 million seismic retrofitting at Northwood High. A school, I might add, that sits on solid bedrock and has never had a single structural issue. Funny thing, the work was never done. The invoices, however, were paid in full. The state's geological survey reports, which I have right here, confirm that such work was, and I quote, geologically unnecessary and structurally redundant. Henderson makes a choking sound. He looks at Arthur, his eyes pleading for help, for a way out. But Arthur Vance is gone. The arrogant king has been replaced by a terrified old man, staring at the architect of his ruin. And you, Mr. Davies, she continues, turning her attention to another board member, a thin, weaselly man who always seconded Arthur's motions. Your wife's consulting firm was paid $300,000 for curriculum development, a curriculum that was never implemented. A curriculum that, it turns out, was plagiarized almost entirely from a free online resource provided by the state of Vermont. She is dismantling them. Piece by piece. Lie by lie. With their own numbers, their own minutes, their own corrupt transactions. She is using the intricate system they built to hide their crimes as a weapon to expose them. She wields their own jargon, resource allocation, procurement protocols, consulting fees, like a scalpel, laying bare the rot and disease festering beneath the surface. Arthur Vance finally finds his voice. But it is not the booming, authoritative voice of the board president. It is a thin, reedy screech. This is a lie. A political hit job. You have no proof. You have no authority, he shrieks, his face contorting into a mask of rage and fear. Authority. Secretary Williams says, raising an eyebrow. She taps a page in her folder. My authority comes from the state constitution. As for proof, you seem to have a misunderstanding of what this folder contains. She lifts another document. This, for example, is a sworn affidavit from your former chief financial officer, a Mr. Peterson, who decided to cooperate with my office last week in exchange for immunity. He provided us with the unredacted ledgers. The real ones. Not the sanitized versions you submit for public review. The name Peterson hits Arthur like a physical blow. Betrayal. His own man. The one who knew where all the bodies were buried. And this, she says, pulling out another paper, is a copy of the wire transfer confirmation from Vanguard Educational Solutions to a private bank in the Cayman Islands. A bank where you, Mr. Vance, have a personal account. She lays it on the podium, the numbers stark and damning under the bright lights. Arthur Vance shatters. The carefully constructed facade of the powerful man cracks and falls away, revealing the pathetic, greedy grifter underneath. You can't do this to me, he screams, rising from his chair, his hands gripping the edge of the table. I built this district. I have friends. Powerful friends. The mayor. The congressman. You think you can just walk in here, Anne? Your friends have been notified that they may be persons of interest in a federal investigation, Anaya says calmly, cutting through his tirade. I suspect their calls will be going unanswered for the foreseeable future. He stares at her, his mouth opening and closing like a fish on a deck. He is trapped. The walls are closing in. Every escape route he has ever relied on, his money, his connections, his power, has been sealed. He bangs his gavel on the table, a desperate, reflexive act of a king who has forgotten he has been deposed. Bang. 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 The sound is hollow. Pathetic. An echo of a power that no longer exists. It is just a man, hitting a piece of wood against another piece of wood. This meeting is adjourned, he shouts, his voice cracking. Security. Remove this woman. But the lone security guard at the back of the room doesn't move. He is watching the side door. The same door that had opened before. It opens again. This time, it is not a lone aide. 2 state troopers step into the room. Their uniforms are crisp, their expressions impassive. They move with a quiet, efficient purpose that sucks the remaining air from the room. They are not here to take directions from Arthur Vance. They are here to enforce a power far greater than his. They are followed by the aide from before. She is holding a tablet computer. She walks directly to Secretary Williams and hands it to her. Anaya takes the tablet. She doesn't look at it. She looks at Arthur Vance, who is standing behind his magnificent table, trembling with a mixture of rage and terror. "You had one final question for me, Mr. Vance," she says, her voice low and carrying across the silent room. "You accused me of having no proof. You said my son's experience was just an anecdote. You suggested the problem was his home. His mother." She turns the tablet on. With a tap of her finger, its screen is mirrored on the large monitors mounted on the boardroom wall, the same monitors that just minutes ago were displaying the meeting's agenda. An audio file is open on the screen. A waveform pulses, waiting. "I find that audio evidence is rarely anecdotal," she says. She presses play. Arthur Vance's own voice fills the room. It is distorted, tinny, clearly from a phone recording, but it is unmistakably him. He is laughing. "So the guy from Apex is asking for another $1 million, his recorded voice says, chuckling. "I told him, Bill, just bill it as asbestos abatement for Oak Valley. Who's gonna check? Nobody over there even knows how to spell asbestos." A second voice, presumably Bill's, laughs along. The board members who were not implicated now stare at Arthur with open disgust. The ones who were implicated look as if they are about to be sick. Then, the recording continues. Bill's voice says something indistinct. Arthur's voice replies, loud and clear, dripping with the casual, confident racism he only displays behind closed doors. "Look, it's not our fault they can't get their act together. You give them a new school, and in 5 years it looks like a war zone. It's just their nature. Throwing good money after bad. We're not running a charity here. We're providing a service, and if our friends make a little something on the side, that's just smart business. It's not like their kids are going to be doctors or lawyers anyway." The final sentence hangs in the air like poison gas. The room is utterly still. The recorded voice of Arthur Vance has just signed his own death warrant. He has damned himself with his own words, his own prejudice, his own bottomless arrogance. Anaya presses stop. The silence that rushes back in is heavier, more profound than before. It is the silence of a tomb. Arthur Vance looks at the monitors, at his own name next to the audio file, and a sound escapes his throat. A low, guttural noise of pure animal despair. The 2 state troopers begin to walk forward. They move around the long table, their footsteps a steady, inexorable drumbeat counting down the final seconds of Arthur Vance's life as a free man. Arthur Vance, the lead trooper says, his voice devoid of emotion. "You are under arrest for felony fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and violations of the public trust." They reach him. One trooper takes his right arm, the other takes his left. "No," he screams, trying to pull away, but their grip is like iron. "You can't. I am the president of this board." The trooper pulls Arthur's hands behind his back. The sharp, metallic click of handcuffs closing echoes through the cathedral of power. The sound is a full stop. The end of an era. They begin to lead him away, past the table where he reigned, past the members who once feared him and now stare at him with a mixture of terror and relief. As they pass the podium, he twists his head, his eyes wild and desperate, and locks his gaze on Anaya Williams. His face is a mess of confusion and hate. "You, who are you?" he rasps, the question he asked before, But this time it is not a challenge. It is a plea. A desperate need to understand the force that has just obliterated his world. Anaya Williams looks at him. There is no triumph in her eyes. No hatred. Only a profound and weary sadness. "I'm just a mother, Mr. Vance," she says, her voice returning to the quiet tone she began with. "A mother who loves her son. You didn't see a person standing here tonight. You saw a stereotype. A nuisance to be dismissed." She gestures around the opulent room. "You sat in this temple you built for yourself and you thought you were a god. But you were just a thief. A common, greedy thief stealing hope from children." She takes a step closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "For him alone. You asked what was wrong with my son's home. You were right. Something was wrong. The thing that was wrong was that men like you were in charge of his future. And I came here tonight to fix that." She holds his gaze. "You are not being arrested because I am the Secretary of Education. You are being arrested because you laughed at a mother who was fighting for her child. You just picked the wrong 1 inch." The troopers pull him away. He continues to stare at her, the truth of her words finally dawning in his terrified eyes. His arrogance was not his strength, it was his blindness. And it led him, step by inexorable step, into this perfect, inescapable trap. They pull him through the main doors, out into the hallway where the flashbulbs of the waiting press erupt like a lightning storm, capturing his public annihilation for the world to see. In the boardroom, there is only silence. And the quiet, steady presence of the woman with the worn manila folder. The fallout is not a storm. It is a biblical flood. A cleansing fire that sweeps through the corrupt corridors of the Northwood County educational system, leaving nothing of the old regime but ash. Arthur Vance's downfall is swift, brutal, and absolute. Denied bail as a flight risk due to his offshore accounts, he is forced to trade his tailored suits for an orange jumpsuit. His powerful friends, the mayor and the congressman, issue press releases condemning him, their words a desperate attempt to scrape his filth from their own polished shoes. They offer him no help. His calls go unreturned. In the world of transactional power, a man with nothing left to offer is a ghost. The trial is a formality. A public execution of a reputation already dead. The prosecution, armed with the mountain of evidence Anaya Williams's office provides, paints a devastating picture of greed and systemic corruption. The secret recording of Vance's racist tirade is the final, unforgivable sin. The jury, a collection of ordinary citizens from the very county he plundered, deliberates for less than an hour. Guilty. On all counts. The judge, a woman known for her stern demeanor and intolerance for abuses of public office, makes an example of him. She speaks of the profound betrayal, of the theft not just of money, but of opportunity and hope from a generation of children. Arthur Vance, the man who once commanded a boardroom with a tap of his gavel, stands trembling before her, a shrunken, pathetic figure. He is sentenced to 25 years in a federal penitentiary. No parole. His assets are seized. The mansions, the luxury cars, the art collection, all liquidated to create a restitution fund for the very schools he starved. The offshore accounts are clawed back through international treaties. By the end, he is left with nothing. A name synonymous with disgrace. His co-conspirators on the board face their own reckonings. Henderson and Davies, seeing the writing on the wall, take plea deals. They testify against Vance in excruciating detail, hoping for leniency. They get it, but it is a cold comfort. They receive reduced sentences of 5 and 7 years respectively, but they are ruined. Disbarred from ever holding public office again, their names are dragged through the mud. Their families are shamed. Their comfortable lives are dismantled. The other board members, the silent, complicit ones, are forced to resign in disgrace. Their cowardice is laid bare for the public to see, and they retreat from public life, branded by their association with the fallen king. The companies, Vanguard Educational Solutions and Apex Builders, are dissolved. The cronies and contractors who enabled Vance's schemes are pursued with relentless prosecutorial fervor. A web of corruption that took a decade to build is torn apart in a matter of months. But destruction is only half the story. From the ashes, something new begins to grow. Anaya Williams, as Secretary of Education, is not just a wrecking ball, she is an architect. She works with a ferocious, unwavering purpose. The restitution fund, swelled by Vance's seized assets, is poured directly into the district's most neglected schools. Oak Valley Elementary is first. Construction crews arrive, not for cosmetic fixes, but for a total overhaul. The leaky roof is replaced. The crumbling classrooms are gutted and rebuilt with bright new paint, modern wiring, and proper ventilation. The library is filled with thousands of new books, its ancient computers replaced with rows of gleaming new tablets and laptops. The taped-off section of the gymnasium is repaired, the floor refinished and repainted with a proud new school mascot. Soap dispensers are installed in every bathroom, and they are always full. The change is more than physical. Anaya authorizes the hiring of a dozen new teachers and aides for Oak Valley, drastically reducing class sizes. She institutes merit-based bonuses for educators working in underserved schools, attracting top talent. She champions new arts and music programs, believing that education is not just about test scores, but about nurturing the human spirit. Her work extends beyond Northwood County. The investigation uncovers similar, if smaller scale, corruption in 3 other districts. It becomes clear the problem is systemic. In response, Anaya drafts and lobbies for a sweeping piece of state legislation. It overhauls the way educational funds are allocated, creating a new formula based on need, not property taxes, ensuring that schools like Oak Valley can never be starved into failure again. The press calls it the Williams Act. Anaya insists on a different name. It is officially ratified as the Leo Williams Children's Future Act. Maria Rodriguez, the one board member who showed a flicker of integrity, is appointed by the governor, on Secretary Williams's strong recommendation, as the interim president of the new Northwood County School Board. She is tasked with building a new board, one that is diverse, transparent, and accountable. She rises to the occasion, becoming a fierce advocate for the very students the old board ignored. The heroes are rewarded not with riches, but with the profound satisfaction of their work. Anaya Williams becomes a respected and beloved figure in the state, known for her quiet competence and unshakable integrity. She is still a mother first, but now she is a mother to thousands of children, fighting for their futures every single day. 6 months later. The world is different. The air itself seems cleaner. Anaya Williams is not in a sterile boardroom or a stuffy state office. She is standing in the newly renovated library of Oak Valley Elementary. The room is bathed in the warm light of a Saturday afternoon, streaming through large, clean windows that were once grimy and cracked. The scent of new books and fresh paint hangs in the air. The room is alive. Children are scattered throughout, some curled up in brightly colored beanbag chairs with books, others working in quiet collaboration at computer stations. There is a low, happy hum of activity. The sound of potential being realized. Anaya is not wearing a power suit. She is in jeans and a simple sweater. She is leaning against a bookshelf, watching her son. Leo is at a table with 2 of his friends. He is animated, his face lit up with excitement. He is pointing at a screen, explaining a coding project they are working on. He is building a simple video game. He is creating a world. The boy who was losing hope is now a builder of worlds. He looks up and sees his mother watching him. He gives her a wide, brilliant smile. A smile of pure, uncomplicated joy. It is the only reward Anaya has ever needed. A woman walks up and stands beside her. It is Maria Rodriguez. She looks different, too. The timid, uncertain woman from the boardroom is gone. In her place is a confident, capable leader. It's beautiful, isn't it? Maria says softly, her eyes sweeping across the vibrant room. It's what it always should have been, Anaya replies. We just approved the funding for the new music program, Maria says, a note of pride in her voice. We're hiring a full-time band instructor and a choir director. The kids are so excited. That's wonderful news, Maria. They stand in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the children. They are 2 women who, in their own ways, stood up to a corrupt system and won. I still think about that night sometimes, Maria says, her voice thoughtful. The look on his face when he realized who you were. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. Anaya nods slowly. She remembers it too. The shattered arrogance, the dawning terror. He didn't fall because I had a fancy title, she says, her gaze still on Leo. He fell because he was blind. He looked at me and he didn't see a person. He saw a problem he could dismiss. He saw a category, a stereotype. He heard a complaint, but he didn't listen to the words. He was so insulated by his own power and prejudice that he couldn't imagine the person in front of him might be anything other than what he expected. She turns to Maria, her expression clear and certain. Arrogance is a prison. It locks you in a room with no windows, and you eventually forget there's a world outside. Arthur Vance built his own prison long before those troopers put him in handcuffs. He just didn't know it. The true battle was never fought in that boardroom. It was fought in the quiet moments of a mother seeing her son's light begin to dim. It was won by the fierce, unyielding power of a parent's love, a force more potent than any budget, any gavel, any king on a temporary throne. Leo runs over to them, his face flushed with accomplishment. Mom. Look. I made the character jump over the obstacle. Anaya kneels down to his level, her face breaking into a warm smile. That's amazing, sweetie. Show me how you did it. As her son excitedly explains the logic of his code, the new Secretary of Education, the woman who toppled a corrupt empire, is once again just a mother. Listening. Encouraging. Building a future, one line of code, one child, one moment of hope at a time. The king is in his cell. The kingdom is finally free.